you got to take your victory lap. Not only did you predict that AI would be a big topic of conversation, but it dominated the call. So take your victory lap here.
Okay. I'm taking the victory lap here. I'm taking the victory lap here. So the reason the stock is up so much out of the gate is because the revenue forecast was above estimates, right? But as one of the analysts said on the call, sort of phrased differently, but NVIDIA just has this way of like hitting the zeitgeist, right? And the zeitgeist right now, as we know, is all about AI and it's all about ChatGPT. And so I told you, of course, going into this, that's what I was going to be listening for. And like, I didn't have to listen hard because they talked a lot about AI, artificial intelligence on the call, and how not only their chips, but their whole suite of products, sort of software as a service, and chips, all of that powering a lot of AI activity. They talked a lot about enterprise AI. And so, yeah, it was there. It's to be fair, it's not like it was a very hard guess, but I'll take the credit. I'll still take the credit.
An AIOG, as you called them, going into this call. And as our viewers are taking a look at some of the key takeaways from this roughly hour that we heard from the CEO, Jensen Huang, as well as Colette, the CFO, I think one of the huge things, no doubt, was just DGX and DGX Cloud as a platform. And this is essentially, and I'm writing down all of these acronyms as we were going along. You had to write down about the CSPs, the LLMs, the GPUs. And so at the end of the day, all that our viewers need to know is that you are essentially going to see NVIDIA partner or sell to some of the CSP, these cloud service providers, to offer AI as a service on that platform. And DGX in the cloud is for proprietary models. So them basically saying no AI in itself as an application was key here, because they essentially are taking to the market and to their core customers here a platform that they can build different generative AI models on top of here. And so the street, no doubt, liking a lot of that mentions, plus what had already kind of emerged within the earnings themselves here. Not diving too much into those numbers, but diving into some of the numbers that I'm watching here in the after hours performance here. Just to pull up a chart, NVIDIA has been hovering around this 8% higher move that we had seen, and after hours and extended hours activity here. And they've been holding on to that here. And of course, on the day, they were higher, but just fractionally. But here's what I also want to take a look at. It's some of the companies that they mentioned, because they also mentioned some of those partners, one of them being Oracle. So I'm just going to navigate over to our software heat map here. Oracle, Microsoft, Google, they were all mentioned. Microsoft fractionally higher post-market or in the extended hours here. You're seeing that up by about 0.2%. And then after hours trading, you're seeing Oracle also up by about 0.5%. I'm just going to refresh this very briefly here, because earlier we saw Oracle actually higher by about 1.3% during this call. So that was particularly interesting to track. But here is even more on the DGX Cloud from Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA. Here's the clip.
Today, we're announcing the NVIDIA DGX Cloud, the fastest and easiest way to have your own DGX AI supercomputer. Just open your browser. NVIDIA DGX Cloud is already available through Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and Microsoft Azure, Google GCP, and others on the way.
Okay, so there you heard from NVIDIA CEO Julie. I mean, you heard it. We heard it clear as day. This is what they're prioritizing, and that total addressable market is what a lot of the analysts are hoping is going to be pulled forward, and that demand really accelerate off of this new offering.
Yeah, definitely. And what this all presents to is a really good reminder that everybody's all excited about ChatGPT, about generative AI, about all these opportunities, but it's not as though OpenAI just like makes the thing and it's the only piece that is necessary. What AI needs is to be trained, right? It's a generative model because it learns things. How does it learn things? Well, it's powered by a chip. It's powered by, actually, among other things, when you're talking about this type of AI, what NVIDIA calls the omniverse. And when I say that they're good at tapping into the zeitgeist, they were all about the metaverse last year around this time, right? And about what it calls their omniverse, which is effectively simulated worlds that help AI learn how to build things, smart grids for cities where they have a virtual map of a city in the metaverse or the omniverse, where it's learning things through AI. So there are multiple layers of this, multiple players of this. When we talk about like who's going to win in AI, there are a lot of different players that contribute different parts to this. So I think that that is important to remember. The other thing, more broadly for the chip industry to remember, is that we've been in an inventory correction, and we heard the CFO, Colette Kress, comment on that as well.
The year-on-year decline reflects the impact of channel inventory correction, which is largely behind us. And demand in the seasonally strong fourth quarter was solid in most regions. While China was somewhat impacted by disruption related to COVID, we are encouraged by the early signs of recovery in that market.
So she makes it sound as though there's a bottoming process going on here for that inventory situation, which markets have been waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. One huge thing, especially as we think about what the overall vibe was. And, you know, as I think about the vibe from this call, there's one thing that really sticks out. And Jensen kind of laid it out here, talking about, no question, this is a very big moment for the computer industry. Talking about the revolution that the PCs brought to the computer industry, the revolution that the internet brought to the computer industry, and the opportunities for monetization that opened up, and the mobile cloud revolution. Within all of that, the reality is here, and this is somewhat to your point as well, Julie, reality is there will be pretenders and there will be contenders. But what we're seeing, I think, through this announcement is that you've got a consortium of some of those contenders that are starting to emerge and band together, where they can create platforms that all of their end customers will be able to layer or build on top of. And that's when you hear kind of the consortium of an Nvidia, a Microsoft, Oracle, all of these different companies, of Google, that they're going to be able to sell into. So I gave this call a good call grade for a vibe check here, because I think Jensen did a very good job of selling the investor community on that, at least right now, and we're going to wait for some more details to emerge on it.
Yeah, Jensen is always sounding very cool and collected on the call, and definitely not shying away from touting the company's abilities and this, you know, making it sound big that we are at this pivotal point. One thing I will mention, though, very quickly, is that there was not the talk of the economy that we have heard on other tech calls, right? And investors are certainly paying attention to that. So just one thing to continue to watch, right? Even as the vibe check was definitely good, you have to keep in mind that a lot of these big tech firms, that is Nvidia's clients, are not necessarily spending like they were. Maybe they're still spending on AI and all this stuff, but just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's bring in Yahoo Finance's own tech designated hitter, the DH himself, Dan Howley. Dan, we got to get your take, your keys from this call for Nvidia. After hours, they're still holding on to that gain, but what did you zero in on?
Yeah, I mean, it's right behind me. Data good, gaming bad, right? The data side of things was great. Not amazing, but you know, the forward-looking story is great. But gaming was bad. I just want to hit you with some of the gaming numbers here. And Nvidia, ostensibly a gaming-based company, their revenue came in at $1.83 billion for their games business. Beat expectations of $1.6 billion, sure, but down 46% year over year. Now, that's better, I guess, than the 51% they were down year over year in the last quarter. One of the things that I think is worth talking about, though, is, you know, this is all the residual kind of buildup that we saw during the pandemic, right? So people went out, bought tons of games, bought tons of computers. They don't need them anymore. Or they don't need to buy new ones right away. And so what's happening is we're seeing people leveling off. And I just want to, you know, just to give you a little bit of history, if you look back at Q4 2019, you're going to get 1.5 billion in revenue for the gaming side of things. So 1.83, 1.5 billion from 2019, not too bad. And then in 2018, they only had 954 million in Q4 gaming revenue. So look, the gaming business is going to continue to be a pillar of this company. It's what helped them get to where they are now. It's where they got the money to go into AI, obviously. But I think for now, you know, it's going to take obviously a backseat for quite some time if they continue to go forward with this big AI push, or, you know, maybe it'll just be like the metaverse.
Mm.
All right, Dan, appreciate it. Great stuff, as always, breaking down what we heard from this call from Nvidia. We got to switch gears. We got to get to a Wall Street versus Main Street look here. We've got the tweet roundup. Of course, New York City has Canal Street, and many other cities around the world do as well. But Yahoo Finance has their own Allie Canal here to break down some of the tweets that we're seeing around NVIDIA. Allie, what do you see out there?
Yeah, Brad, and safe to say that the conversation on Main Street is largely about artificial intelligence, AI. I pulled these three tweets here. One Twitter user, Ryan Smith, writing, quote, "NVIDIA sure has developed a knack for being in the right place at the right time. ChatGPT blew up right as H100 started shipping in good volumes. It's hard to think of a better time to introduce hardware that accelerates transformers. H100, of course, is NVIDIA's most advanced chip, but that timing point, I do think it's relevant. Analysts have picked up on this as well. If you look at the stock price over the past 2 months, which is really when we saw that conversation surrounding AI explode, NVIDIA stock benefited up 25% since December 22nd. Year to date, that's even higher, more than 40%. And like we've been discussing this entire special, we really have seen this company lean on that AI push across the call. That brings me to tweet number 2, quote, 5 minutes in an NVIDIA earnings call, and they've already mentioned AI 23 times. LOL. Hashtag artificial intelligence is the future. But not everyone necessarily agrees. Our final tweet here, a warning that the AI boom could come with some potential risks. This user writing, quote, "AI is a new tech bubble. SMH, shaking my head." And guys, I did see quite a few of these conversations on Twitter with multiple users really questioning whether or not AI is just all hype, given these sky-high valuations, this intense demand. I don't know. What do you guys think? Could this be a potential bubble there?
Well, I mean, speaking of valuations, if you look at NVIDIA versus peers, it is priced at a premium to pretty much everything except Intel. And Intel's, well, that's because the E is not doing so well in Intel's case. So we'll see, you know, if people want to continue to pay up for NVIDIA as it has this run. Thanks so much, Allie. Appreciate it. Some good observations there from the Twitterati, so to speak, Brad. And, you know, again, to just sort of make that point here is that they talked a lot about AI in the call. They did not talk very much about gaming on the call, which to Dan's point has been sort of a weaker spot. But, you know, NVIDIA, it feels like, is seen by the street, by retail investors as something that is going to be a long-term winner because of these long-term secular trends, even as it's still subject to stuff like the economy, right? And to normal chip cycles and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that they had to do right on this call, and one of my other takeaways as we kind of bring this ship into the dock here, is really what's coming next. Of course, they talked about what DGX could be, but now it's about what you had mentioned earlier and what that actual omniverse looks like in the data center as well, and reliant on NVIDIA's own software, but as well as the larger kind of computing power that they have as well. So NVIDIA AI, omniverse, and what they're calling the best GTC yet, this conference that's going to be coming up shortly. So really just trying to keep investors on the edge of their seats and analysts at bay for right now until they're ready to disclose more information in the coming weeks at that conference, it sounds like.
I think we need like the ship horn. We're coming into dock.
That's the best I got. That's the best I got. All right, everyone, that does it for here in the Yahoo Finance offices, where no one is to be found right now. We're closing things down. We're shutting it down, as you should as well. We're going to shut down this stream right now. You've been watching After the Call for NVIDIA's earnings. Brad Smith here with Julie Hyman. You also heard from Allie Canal and Dan Howley.